Welcome to the Chapter 1 podcast, your inside look at the people powering Charlotte's business scene. Real stories, real entrepreneurs right here in the Queen City. We're here with Natty Berridge today of Pomodoro's Italian-American Cafe. Natty, thank you so much for being on the show. Let's start at Chapter 1. How did you find yourself here in the Queen City? How did you get to Charlotte?
I was 14 years old, and we lived in San Diego, and my dad worked for a PSA at the time, the airplane with the big smile that some people will still remember.
Yeah.
And he grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania, and so U.S. Air bought him, and so they said, you can quit your job, or you can transfer to Pittsburgh, or you can transfer to Charlotte. And he said, I'm not going back to Pennsylvania, so...
Found your way here to Charlotte.
6 months, a year later, we were here. He came back here, and he was working back here, and so we'd fly back every other weekend and see him and look for houses and all that kind of stuff. And then August of 1990 made the move and been here ever since.
Awesome. So 14 years old. So between 14 and you becoming a professional and having a job, what was life like? I mean, were you into sports? What'd you do in the area?
Yeah, high school football. A little bit of track because they made us, but I mean, we didn't really do anything there. But just needed a job when I was 16, and most of my buddies had jobs at supermarkets just as bag boys, and so I tried to apply at every supermarket in town, and nobody would hire me, and filled out a job application for a dishwasher at Lou's Fine Foods, and they called me in about an hour and a half and asked me if I could start that night.
Awesome. So how did you find your way from doing that and maybe some of your first jobs to what you're doing now? Like, what does your professional story look like?
It was nothing that I ever intentionally did. Things just kept kind of happening. I just started washing dishes for a few months, and then that bled over into being on the line when a guy called out and then went missing. And then you're just doing good at it, and then next thing you know, you're kind of getting promoted a little bit, and you're going from washing dishes to working on the line to running the line, and then you move or you go to another job or you find another job in the kitchen, and then next thing you know, you just escalate through there rather quickly, and it just keeps on happening wherever you go. So, I don't know if that's, specific to me, but that's just kind of how my advancement was. I'd get a job in another kitchen because that's all I really knew to do, and never once thought about doing anything else, really.
So, where you're at now, so you're the owner and a chef, is that correct?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that experience and what that entails.
That's for anybody in the service business. It's a 7-day-a-week job. It's 24/7 pretty much. You're there all the time. You're, for lack of a better term, you're married to it. You're there. If anything breaks, if anything goes wrong, it's always everybody's calling your name for anything.
It's on you, man.
Yeah, so the toilet could break, the spigot on a sink could break. It doesn't matter. A piece of equipment goes down, or some irate customer that wants to speak to a manager, or on the other end, the good things too. People want to give you compliments. People call you up and said, hey, our daughter, for example, is always loved to eat there, right? Well, she's getting married now, and she wants you to do the food. So that's the kind of feel-good stuff that comes with it, too. So it's a lot of pluses and minuses.
Well, how long have you been in that position at your current?
Let's see. Counting the other couple of restaurants we had, probably about 7 years now, 8 years as owner/chef.
In the beginning phases of that, what was that like for you to step into that role of ownership, and what were some of the big responsibilities kind of put on your plate that you were like, man, this is new for me, and like, how did you overcome those hurdles?
You just put your head down and grind and work and hope that you have a good mentor that you're working with, or people you can ask questions to, and you just do it. And if you don't know how to do it, I mean, if you're gonna screw it up, you may as well screw it up doing 100 miles an hour. So just a lot of things you kind of get worked into slowly. You learn to do payroll, so there's a piece of it. You learn to start doing some of the bookkeeping stuff, so there's another piece to it. And so everything kind of comes together in pieces. And if you can put it all together, then I think it's true with pretty much any business.
Yeah.
You got to learn all the pieces of it and go from there. But you got to embrace the suck. You know what I mean? It's not going to be fun for a long time.
That's right. So in those earlier phases, I imagine things like networking and marketing is a part of the plan. I mean, you want to get people in the door. What were some of the strategies to do that for you guys, and what seemed to work? Like, how did you get people to come in?
Really, a lot of it, there was no particular strategy other than knowing that your food is your cheapest form of advertisement, and so get it in front of people. back when I first started, no one was familiar with any of these other marketing or networking groups that were around. It was pretty much just a chamber of commerce thing, and that was about it. But just meeting people, trying to get out there if you have the time.
Right.
So if you have a good enough staff, if your business volume is enough that you can not be there a little bit and go do those other things, then you can go do them. But if any one of those other things isn't there, then you're kind of stuck in there doing what you're doing. But just a lot of getting out in front of people, talking to people at the tables, letting them get to know you, you get to know them.
Yeah.
The whole know, like, and trust thing, but just on a more personal level inside the restaurant, because you can't really get out sometimes.
Right. Well, so tell me a little bit about the restaurant experience, like your specific spot. There are other restaurants out there doing similar things, other Italian places, I'm sure. What's something maybe more unique about Pomodoro's that you guys bring to the table?
I think in today's culture, you get a lot of the corporate restaurants, and a lot of an example I like to use is like concrete floors and open ceilings, a very warehouse type of, which is great for a brewery or anything like that. But any kind of like sit down restaurant, I think people are kind of missing that old school, almost like a Cheers kind of feeling, where people that work there, those people kind of know you. They know what you do for a living. They know your kids. And we still offer that, and the decor and just the feeling, the ambiance when you go in there of, I guess the whole vibe of it, doesn't feel very warehousey. It feels more intimate. A lot of the stuff, 90% of the stuff we still make right there. And I think all that makes a difference, because you can know and kind of taste that somebody cares.
Yeah.
Because it's not a job where you just, like a production job. It's not a 7 to 3:30 with a 30-minute break, and no matter what happens, you're leaving at 3:30. It's not one of those things. You can really truly tell if somebody who's either serving you or is preparing your food really cares about what they're doing.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the menu. So you guys, I'm imagining it's Italian type food. What are some unique things you guys bring in that regard? And what are some of your favorite things to make and to prepare?
Italian American, so it's not, but it's big. It's a much bigger menu than you see at most places now. I should probably look into paring it down a little bit in the future, but just about everything on there is so popular. Our eggplant rollatini, which, a lot of people love eggplant parm. It's just our spin on it, where we put a seasoned ricotta and we just roll it into the eggplant, bake it off with our signature homemade marinara, top it with mozzarella cheese, and
oh man,
it goes.
Awesome.
Some of the things that I like, that, the pasta norcia has always been a big hit. Sauteed hot sausage and walnuts, hit it with a little heavy cream, penne pasta, marinara, a little magic mix in there. And that's ridiculous. But a lot of people hear hot sausage and walnuts and they kind of go, oh, well, maybe. And then they try it and they go, wow, this is ridiculous. So,
wow.
I try to take those kind of dishes in our lasagna to any kind of marketing things or anything I'm donating food to get out in front of people, just our more popular items that are just a bit different than what everybody else does.
And how do you, is that fully just on you to create the menu? I don't know exactly how the restaurant industry works, but are you giving kind of full reins to say, hey, I want to make something a little bit differently?
This menu's been around, this iteration of this menu's been around for quite a while. So it's been a collaboration of not just me, but the previous owner and previous guys who worked in that kitchen. The business, anything like most things, isn't what it used to be. But when you have a lot of guys that have talent and skill in there, you can kind of pull from everybody's brain and pick a little bit here and pick a little bit there, and you end up putting something pretty good together.
Is that one of those things where you kind of have to keep coming up with something new, or once you kind of find the right order of things for the menu, is it kind of just like set and forget?
It kind of depends on the restaurant and what you're doing. There are some places that love to change their menu seasonally. There's some play like in country clubs, they'll change it seasonally. More fine dining restaurants, they'll do that. But it just depends on the chef and the owner, and how, those aren't always the same person, and how well they get along and collaborate and want to do things, and who gives, how much reign, I guess, does the owner give the chef over the menu. And it is a good chef that's coming up with good ideas, that's keeping everything successful and keep people coming in the doors. So it's really a big teamwork thing. You have to have certain relationships.
Right. Where are you guys located if you want to tell the people.
Right off Interstate 77, exit 36 in Mooresville, right across from Walmart, right next to the movie theater, right there on that end cap spot. Been there since 2010, I believe.
Awesome. So what have you found is like your target client? Like what are the primary people that are coming in? Is it a younger crowd, an older crowd? Have you kind of found that, or is it typically just kind of anybody?
Our crowd is usually typically a little bit older. We do have some young people in there, but older insofar as, maybe now they're in their, late 40s, early 50s. They're bringing the family in, or those kids were young enough and they remember coming there. So now they come in with their parents. So you have you have usually sometimes three generations in big parties there. Everybody enjoying the food. Like the example I gave earlier, we've had several people who've eaten there a lot as kids growing up, and then we end up catering their weddings and, birthday parties and things like that. So that always makes you feel good.
What are some of the hurdles you've had to kind of overcome, or maybe some of the more difficult challenges that you faced as an owner?
Oh man, when you're short staffed and you have 30 hours worth of work to do and 24 hours to get it done, and everybody's calling your name. There's always fires coming up that you're putting out, just back and forth. And you just have to be able to balance that and not have a nervous breakdown and just go crazy. So it does kind of wear on you a bit, but like you also have to realize that that's not just you. That's everybody that owns a business. Is it a little bit different in a restaurant? Most certainly it is. But all business owners face challenges like that where they got a million things coming at them at once.
Oh yeah. So obviously there's a lot of different things you're doing. What would you say is the thing that you love most about what you get to do?
Oh boy, that's a great question. Probably just knowing that I'm working for me.
Yeah.
You could be working two. I mean, there's plenty of people out there working 2-3 jobs, a spouse, a partner's doing the same thing, trying to make ends meet, working. At least if I know if I am working a lot and my wife is there with me and my daughter sometimes when she's home from college, that at least like we know we're doing it for us. So that's kind of the big thing that like makes you feel at the end of the day like, there's a lot of responsibility and all that fun stuff, but to know that you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah. If you weren't doing this, if you weren't an owner, what do you think you'd be doing? Are there other things that you had interest in, or do you think you'd be in a similar position?
I've always been in this business, except for a few excursions into like working in warehouses and driving trucks. I don't know, maybe something like that. It's nothing I've really ever given a thought to. I like to be doing something probably in the motorcycle industry, selling bikes, riding bikes,
So tell me a little brief aside, just because now I'm interested. What's your bike hobby like? I mean, are you actually working on the bikes themselves, or do you own a motorcycle?
Yeah, I own a couple motorcycles, but I don't personally work on them. Okay. I look at them and get a lot of good ideas, and then take it over to my buddies at D&D and let them do their magic to it. But it's really, I'd love to have more time to ride. But so a lot of times I just go for a little ride before work on my way to work. Or on my way home from work, but most times you're just looking at them in the garage, because you got to go to work. It's Sunday and it's a nice, beautiful day outside, but somebody called out or you got a party coming in, so it's like, hey, you got to go work, you got to go get paid, so off you go.
What's the best place to ride around, Charlotte, Mooresville area?
Head west and get up into the mountains, or north and get up into the mountains. Anytime you can get away from the traffic in the greater metropolitan area, that's always the best. The Blue Ridge Parkway around here is great. The Cherry Hollow Skyway. A lot of people like the Tail of the Dragon. Some people do it once and say never again, but it's really nice because it's hard to get lost in North Carolina.
Yeah.
If you know how interstates and highways work.
Right.
So it's nice to just take off without a GPS on and just go for a ride and find some nice little hole in the wall restaurant or maybe some brewery or something out in the middle of nowhere and just have a nice lunch and just take the whole day just riding around.
So if you were talking to somebody who wasn't doing anything for themselves in terms of they didn't own their restaurant and maybe they were working for somebody else, but they were kind of branching off and to start doing that, what kind of advice would you give somebody starting off doing something like that, having the years of experience you have, knowing the things that you know? What kind of advice would you give somebody like that? You
have to be okay with kind of being alone most of the time, in the sense that no, and it's like this for most businesses, but like nobody's going to understand what it's going to be like to sign the checks, to have your name on everything. Nobody's going to care as much as you. It doesn't matter how much you pay them. You know, it's going to be that way. But you have to be okay, especially if you're in this business. You have to be okay on working weekends, working nights, working holidays. If you have a family, you're probably going to be missing a lot of stuff. That's the kind of things you got to be okay with, and understand that 80-hour weeks are normal. You know, but there's so many people that don't want to do those things. You know, they see people that are successful, right? But they don't see the invoice that they paid to have to get there.
Yeah.
And so I think that's true with a lot of businesses, but especially one that's a 7-day-a-week business. I think that's a little bit different ball game than a, you know, if you have some kind of shop that can be open 4 days a week, 5 days a week, you're closed on the weekends,
Sure.
something like that.
Something I always like to ask people that are making food for a living, what does it look like when you're at home making food? Is it just like easiest thing possible?
It doesn't happen much.
No?
Like you see those little memes of like, you know, the hot dogs in the coffee pot, and that's how they're cooking them, you know? It's things like that. Like, I really don't cook that much at home because I'm at work so much, and then my wife's there with me sometimes. Yeah. You know, she's there a few shifts a week with me. So a lot, but I make us breakfast like 6 days a week usually, you know? But then sometimes if I don't feel like making breakfast, we're not going out to some fancy little breakfast place where it's going to cost us $50 or $60 for breakfast. We're going to Waffle House, you know?
So when you do have those chances to make food, what are your go-tos? Like what's stuff that you enjoy?
Man, I just really like a great steak, you know, either like a nice ribeye or, you know, even some kind of bison steak, you know, or a bison burger is great. You know, those are the things I want to eat, that with like some roasted red potatoes, you know, some fresh green beans. Nothing crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nothing that's multiple courses or takes you an hour to make, or just simple stuff, man. Simple, good stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Natty, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. We'd love having you on the show. Tell the people, how can they get in contact with you? Where can they find you? If they wanted to come and eat your food, how would that process work?
Like I said, exit 36 off 77, off of I-77, right across from Walmart, right next to the movie theater. Pomodoros.com. It'll always pop up. You can email me, natty@pomodoros.com. Like I said, when you Google Pomodoros, being just the Italian word for tomato, a lot of it comes up. So we've got people buy gift cards from us before, and then we need to refund the money because they bought for one in Asheville or one in Connecticut or something like that. But Pomodoros.com, and you know, my email link is on there, and we're there 7 days a week now.
Awesome. And I'm Greg Prinz. Contact information is below. We are the Chapter 1 podcast. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify. So until next time, I'm Greg Prinz with the Chapter 1 podcast.